Hello, friends, relatives, assorted others. Jordan here. Of course, if you clicked on this video, you probably already know who I am, since I expect most, if not the only people who will be clicking on this video are those who know me. And the point of this video is to continue that which most of you probably know me for, which is my film/movie reviews. Now, until now, I've been doing mostly, Facebook write-ups, but I decided to try doing something a little new, something a little different. So I'm going to be doing these video reviews like most a lot of YouTubers, but this is something that I really want to try, and I love doing these reviews, talking about these movies, so I want to continue, but just in a new format. So let me know, if you like this, and hopefully this will get like one or two new people interested in my reviews, some people that I don't know, some strangers, some new fans, hopefully. Anyway, yeah. So I'm gonna be talking about four movies that I've seen recently in the past few weeks, past month or so. And yeah, I'm probably a little bit late on most of these, but I still really want to talk to them. So I'm gonna probably talk about most of them pretty briefly, and the one that I saw the most recently, I'll probably talk about the most, but we'll see. Anyway, yeah, I guess, and just point out one more thing. The only movie I think I didn't do a review for, that was a big one, was I think Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So I mean, if you still want to know my thoughts on that film, you can actually look up the pitch meeting. Those videos, pitch meetings, kind of like the honest trailers. But yeah, the Quantumania one for that echoes a lot of my own thoughts. So you can go ahead and check that out. But anyway, so and continuing on with the Marvel theme from that. The first film I'm going to be talking about is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, I usually preface a lot of these types of reviews by talking about what I thought of, briefly what I thought about the first couple of films in the film series. So, the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. Fantastic, loved it. I saw it like 3 times in the theaters. It was everything I could have wanted, everything that we should look for. I felt in a blockbuster summer movie. It was exciting, it was funny, it was heartfelt. It was great. Now the second movie, not as popular among fans, and not without good reason. And I will say that while I probably still think the first film was overall better, I still liked the second film. It's like, even though I felt like the second film was, not as, shall we say, well put together as the first Guardians film, it had a lot of great moments in it. Probably some of the best moments in any of the Guardians films, or possibly even any of the MCU films. And now with this third one, which is being touted as the last film specifically in the Guardians of the Galaxy series, and yeah, they let you know right from frame one when you go in to watch the movie in the theater that they really are selling this as the last one. So with this one, it's there's similar sentiments I feel between this and the second film, and also similarities I feel with another recent MCU film that was Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, if you remember, now most everyone felt Love and Thunder wasn't very good. They thought they probably went a bit overboard with the new tone that they were taking with the Thor character, too much of the comedy, and there are some similar problems in Guardians 3. They kind of go overboard with a lot of the, a lot of the great things that they had with the Guardians series that kind of made it unique, but they kind of went a little bit overboard with it, like some of the comedy, and the idea that these are a bunch of misfits that don't really get along. They really lean into those kinds of things, probably a little bit too much. But it's not as bad in that sense as Thor: Love and Thunder. They still in Guardians 3 they still keep the focus heavily on the characters and the emotions, which is important, especially for this one since this was supposed to be the last one in this series. So I felt that held it together even with all of these with those problems. But more than that, just like what I was saying with Guardians 2, which I felt had some of the best moments in these films, this one also had a lot of great moments. And even there's one action scene that, of course, everyone has talked about near the end that, yeah, it was next level. It was incredible the way they crafted it and shot everything. It was great. And once again, not just best in any of these Guardians films, but probably in any MCU film. Like this was really that sequence just like uh, fantastic, excellent. And as a finisher to this series, I felt it was a decent conclusion to the series. So yeah, some felt it wasn't probably there's a lot of people probably feel that this was the worst film in the series, and I'm not going to argue so much with them. But that doesn't mean it was bad. In fact, I did like it, just like with the second Guardians film, and so I guess concluding thoughts about this film is that it's probably not as good as the original film, maybe not even as good as the second film, but it is better than them probably better than them in certain ways, and it was certainly probably a good finisher for this series. So maybe it's not the best overall film, but it is still a pretty good film. Uh, Especially nowadays with the MCU, where a lot of their movies are more divisive. Now, moving on to a film that's a little less mainstream, I'm going to be talking now about Renfield, starring Nicolas Cage as Dracula. That just sounds like a fantastic fit, really, for me. And Nicholas Hoult as the eponymous Renfield, who, in the mythos, in the story, is Dracula's assistant, his servant. And in this one, it's set in the modern day. And Renfield is, of course, getting a little sick of his servitude to Dracula. He's attending a support group for people in abusive relationships, and that itself already is kind of like a great premise for a movie like this. And yeah, this movie is a lot of fun in that sense. A lot of it's really funny and surprisingly very action packed, and they really because I believe this is a rated R film because I mean it has to be. There's blood and guts flying everywhere when the action's happening. It is great. It is glorious, and also it is surprisingly also very dramatic, very emotional in a lot of sense. It's they not only take advantage of the comedy with this premise, but also with the dramatic thematic elements. This idea of trying to get out of like abusive relationships and why we stay in them, and trying to uh, you know find yourself like and you losing yourself in those kinds of relationships. And yeah, so a lot of that was surprising. So it was surprisingly very insightful in certain ways. And the performances are great. Nicholas Hoult is great, but Nick Cage as Dracula, I mean, he was fantastic, and not just because he's the campy Nicolas Cage playing Dracula, but also he felt like a surprisingly like threatening kind of a villainous presence. So it was kind of like a combination of the campy Nicolas Cage that we love, as well as the actor Nicolas Cage, because we associate Nicolas Cage as this like really over the top goofy actor, which he is, and we love him for that. But we forget he's also an Oscar winning actor, and here he really gets to show off some chops. Not definitely not Oscar worthy probably, but pretty good. Yeah, but even with all that said, there are some things that kind of weigh it down, and a lot of that has to do with these like subplots they have in this movie. Like there's a subplot involving a bunch of mobsters, and also related to that is also a subplot involving a character played by Aquafina, who's a cop who's lost family to these gangsters and stuff. And yeah, these stories do intersect, but yeah, the that whole those subplots, like especially Aquafina's subplot, and there's no disrespect to Aquafina, of course. She does great in the role. It's just that unlike the main story, this like kind of like satire surrounding Dracula and his assistant, the Aquafina's whole story they play it straight. It's not tongue in cheek like the rest of the film is, and I felt like that was a mistake. Like if they had this story, they should have tried to make it more funny. Instead, they tried to play it straight, and it was just it wasn't. You're not invested in that. I wasn't really. It just felt so cliched, so boring, so by the numbers and stuff. So yeah, all that stuff was really weighing it down. I mean, I understand probably her role in the story. Like part of Aquafina's character's role in the story is to like be a love interest for Nicholas Holt, and kind of helps him, gives him the idea of trying to inspires him to kind of like break out of his unhealthy relationship with Dracula. And that was good on paper. It was good in theory, but they really should have just probably pared the role down a bit, kind of like similar to Baby Driver with Lily James's character. Yeah, I know, a lot of these characters, they feel they're very thin, but you could flesh them out a little bit. I mean, just enough. But I felt like they should have kept the role just that, and really focused more on the idea of the relationship between Renfield and Dracula. They should have focused more on that and just got rid of some of these like superfluous subplots and storylines with these gangsters and these cops. Yeah. So, a fun film, but certainly one with a few flaws that really weigh it down. And now I'm going to talk about, back to the blockbuster stuff, I'm going to talk about Fast 10, or Fast X, however you want to designate it. Yeah, so the latest film in the Fast and the Furious franchise, which, if you following these films, the same as I have, yeah, they just gone crazy. They don't care anymore. They're just having fun with all the craziness with these films. It's kind of like the Mission Impossible movies, except, whereas those ones really reinvented themselves to be like really better, like tautly, very well crafted action movies. These are just, bombastic, blockbuster, loud, explosive action movies that just leans really into the camp and the goofiness. And yeah, and we love it for that. It's the water to Mission Impossible's wine, as in terms of modern day action franchises. So with this one, they pretty much continue with that trend. I mean, it is big, it is loud, it is goofy. I mean, and even when they try to go into like the quieter, the deeper character moments, they feel arbitrary, they feel contrived, but the actors are doing a great job. They're really trying to sell it. But yeah, it is all really goofy. It is all over the top. But yeah, you're gonna have a fun time with this movie. I mean, the last movie, Fast 9, people really didn't like it, and I don't remember much about that film, but I'm not sure why with all the hate, because it felt pretty much the same as all the other movies, I guess. I guess it's not as memorable in that sense, but yeah, it was really hated. I'm not entirely sure why, but with this one, they pair back with on all the gimmicks. Like, nobody's like trying to outrun a submarine or trying to drive into space and all that. Yeah, maybe that was one of the reasons why that last film wasn't as well received. But they keep it more kind of on ground level, but really more in a technical sense, because yeah, there's like explosions and stunts and things happening in this movie that these people could never do and would never survive, but they do, of course. But that's part of the fun of these movies. And it's like the early, or maybe a few years ago, kind of Michael Bay movies. It's just thin characters. They're not as deep as they pretend to be, and they're just surrounded by all these loud, crazy, explosive action sequences. And if you enjoy those, you're going to enjoy this movie, I'm sure. I mean, yeah, it's I guess as a film, it's probably just okay. But as these kinds of action films go, you're going to have a good time. I think I did a bit in that sense. I mean, yeah, there are other things that keep it afloat. There's, of course, people have been talking about Jason Momoa's character, the villain, and yeah, he's having a lot of fun with it, and we have a probably gonna have a lot had a fun time watching him act this character. So yeah, but not just the idea of the that they don't care anymore. They just lean into the camp and goofiness. That's kind of like one of the things that people complain about these movies. But there are legitimate flaws weighing this movie down. That you can't overlook even if you try to just surrender to kind of like the goofiness and the adrenaline rush of it all. But yeah, just as a movie, as a story, it is it is very packed. There's so many characters. There's so many storylines happening all at the same time. A lot of new characters come in, and old characters as well. Some of these characters probably don't even need to be here. They're unnecessary, and just having to go back and forth with all these storylines with these people because most of them are separated. And throughout the movie, it gets pretty exhausting. It gets pretty tiresome, and yeah, it's really it makes the film feel unfocused, and you probably lose engagement here and there. And yeah, that's probably my biggest legitimate flaw with this movie. But yeah, I mean, if you're in the mood for like something in the style of like back then with as I said, Michael Bay's like Armageddon period kind of action movies, then yeah, you're gonna like this. All right, it's a decent enough turn your brain off blockbuster action movie that you can go see in the theaters. Okay, now finally we get to the last film, the most recent film that I've seen, and probably the one that people are going to be talking about for days and years to come, is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah. So, yeah, people have been singing this movie's praises ever since it came out, and same as with the first one, they probably think it's even better than the first one, which was already like a fantastic film, won an Oscar and everything. It's like people have been talking about it and talking about it, and yeah, I mean, and I'm not gonna lie to you, yeah, it's the first movie, Into the Spider-Verse, was fantastic, and this movie also excellent. But with these kinds of movies, I'm also very, very cautious, very aware of the idea that even though yeah, these movies do deserve the praise, but there's kind of like this undercurrent to it all with these kinds of movies where the how good these movies are really just an excuse for people to indulge some of their um, worst impulses, like they want to use this movie to make fun of all the MCU movies that they feel are inferior and all that, and also like they point to these the Spider Verse movies and look, and they probably think to themselves, oh look, the POC Spider Man movie is obviously the better one. So why are we wasting our times with all these with all the pasty boy Spider Man and yeah. Yeah, and let me tell you, time spent with Peter Parker is never wasted. So the point I'm trying to make is that I don't really subscribe to all those kinds of thoughts and ideas, and I'm always going to try to be honest with you, from do things from an honest, objective perspective, while still also letting into my own point of view and perspective and all that. I don't lean into all this agendas. Uh, PC stuff and whatever they may have. I'm not saying all these people necessarily have that. I'm saying that some might, and that may inspire some of the praise behind this movie. But yeah, I'm going on a tangent here, but I just want to clarify some of that and just bring a little bit of attention to that. But anyway, back to the movie Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, I mean it is fantastic, excellent. I mean, just on a visual level, it is. Wow, it is hard to describe. It is stupendous. Like the amounts of work that must have gone into this is just that alone is just worthy of praise. They just managed to incorporate so many visual styles, and not just the visuals themselves, but the visual direction, like how they transition between these different styles, how they show them. It's all very incredible. Yeah, so just on that level, this movie is just it's a game changer, really. And, but these things don't really mean much, of course, without a strong story and characters, which yeah, this movie has. They really like really yeah, want to develop these characters. They lean more into the idea behind Spider-Man and the struggles that they have to go through being a superhero. That which is one of the reasons why we love Spider-Man so much. It's grounded, it's real, and yeah, they really lean into that. They you know they develop it more from the last film is what I'm trying to say. They don't try to repeat too many things. There are some stories that feel familiar, but yeah, they try to develop it further. Is what I'm saying. Like one good example is, of course, Gwen Stacy, Spider Woman, Spider Gwen, Ghost Spider, however you want to say it. I will admit, Spider Gwen, I guess is what I'm going to call it from now on, from the first movie Into the Spider Verse, was one of the least compelling, least interesting things that I felt from the movie. Now, yeah, look, hold on, sit down. Look, hear me out. Don't pick up your pitchforks and your guns and try to come after me for that. Well, what I mean is that, her role in the first movie Into the Spider Verse, it was riddled with plot holes, and her characterization, for me felt very familiar, very typical, without enough to make it unique. And it's fair. There were a lot of things going on, but that wasn't to say that she was bad. She was fine. She was decent, but for me, she wasn't one of the best things about that movie for me. But here, though, they flesh out our character even more. And I really enjoyed it. I really felt for her. She ended up becoming one of my least favorite things about the last movie to probably one of my favorite things about this movie. And Haley Steinfeld's performance, she really gets to do more. She has more screen time here, and she kills it. She's fantastic. Even with a cast of so many great performers, great actors, she for me was probably a standout. But yeah, Miles Morales, the main character, doesn't get left to the wayside either. They also focus a lot on him. This is really kind of like they're kind of like co-leads of this movie, and so yeah, everything they do with him was great. The visuals are great and everything. So yeah, it is a wonderful film, but it's not perfect. These movies they're Phil Lord and Chris Miller, Phil Lord and Chris Miller are involved in them. Sorry, last time I kind of got them messed up. I called them Chris Lord, Phil Miller, I think. But yeah, anyway, those guys, they make these movies that are very fast paced, one thing after another, and this one is also very similar. There's a lot of it kind of moves at breakneck speed. They throw a lot at you and stuff, and some people might find that exhausting. Some people might find that it's moving too quickly. The pacing's too frantic, and there is some of that here. The pacing is not is not perfect. It's not as exquisite as I like with the first movie, but it's still good. But that's probably one of the issues that I can point to, that sometimes it moves too fast. Even sometimes it moves a bit too slow. Like the beginning, I felt like there was this huge action sequence near the beginning before the credits even roll, and it felt like it dragged on just a little bit, but but from there, the rest of the movie just it moves at a fine pace, an imperfect one for sure, but at a good one, you know. These are all just they're just minor flaws to point to with this. Another one probably is that you probably don't get as much time with a lot of the characters that you'd like to. It does focus a lot more on Gwen and Miles, and that's good. That's good. But Spider Noir and Spider Ham, the older Peter Parker that we saw from the last movie, they don't get a lot of time here. They're probably setting up for the next movie with that. Yeah, and it's a shame because the mentor mentee relationship that I felt that Peter had with Miles in the last one was one of the highlights, and we don't get much of it here. We do get some of them, and it was good. It's just that would have liked to see more. They in addition to focusing more on Gwen and Miles, they also introduce a lot of new characters, the Pavita, the Indian Spider-Man, yeah, and he was a nice new addition. Would have liked to see more of him as well, and I know a lot of people like the Spider Punk, that they introduced here, played by Daniel Kaluuya, but he wasn't as much of a very interesting to me because he just felt like kind of like an embodiment of a checklist for the British punk movement, anti-establishment, anti the man, rage against the machine kind of, that kind of thing, and that wasn't very interesting. There wasn't enough there to make him unique, and but yeah, I guess yeah, he was fine. But and his aesthetic, his visuals were very interesting. And Miguel O'Hara was probably felt like the most fleshed out character here. And yeah, he is more of a wet blank. He's not as humorous as some of the other Spider-Man, but he had a strong story, and it connects nicely to the story that's going on in this movie. And that's something I want to say as well. There are a lot of things going on in this movie, but they pace it out quite well, much better than a lot of other movies that try to do a lot of things all at once. And you try to you see all this happening on screen, and a lot of time when I do, I think that okay, just pick. I know you can deal with a lot of things, but try to focus on mainly on like one or two kinds of conflicts. And at first, when I watched this movie, I felt like it was going to do a bit of that, but no, they keep the focus where it needs to be. And that's good. While still, there's a lot juggling around as well, but they move from beat to beat very well. So, like I said, that's has to do with the pacing, and so it's good. It's imperfect, but it is good. And yeah, they deal with a lot of great ideas and themes. This idea with the existentialist ideas of the multiverse, in addition to all the dramatic things about being Spider-Man, being a superhero. They handle these themes quite well. Like and it also kind of it reminded me a bit of some of the multiverse existentialist ideas from No Way Home, which like that movie, you can say took inspiration from Spider Verse, and this one, the new one, Across the Spider Verse, you could say probably took some inspiration from No Way Home. So yeah, it's good. All these movies are great. This movie is good. It's yeah, it's an imperfect film for sure, but it's still a great film, right? And unlike something also that connected back to the movie that I talked about before, Fast 10. That one, they were clearly trying to. That was clearly meant to be like a part one or something, like what they saying is probably going to be the conclusion of this whole franchise. And yeah, it really felt like it. Like it just leaves you on like a really just a hard cliffhanger and stuff. And there is definitely there is a cliffhanger to this as well, and it really does feel like a part one. It doesn't feel enough like a self-contained story. It definitely feels like a part one Across the Spider Verse, but Infinity War was also part one, but that had enough of a you know a arc and resolution, so that it felt like its own film, while still, of course, attached to the idea of being connected to this wider universe. And Across the Spider Verse, what helps keep it from from feeling like you're groaning at the end of it, oh, this is clearly a part one, so you don't feel like a sense of satisfaction, but you do. In fact, you feel like excitement to see the next one, because you're just they do a good job of helping you, of keeping you engaged throughout, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, it's yeah, this movie, like Into the Spider Verse, is just a great, well crafted film in a lot of sense. In a lot of sense, like in the visuals, it's like next level and stuff. So yeah, it's great. Really looking forward to the next one. But of course, I do hope that when that people don't forget some of the other great Spider-Man films out there. They don't just want to point to this. Declare this is the best, and they want to put down all the other people who like some of the live action ones better and stuff, and maybe even accuse them of probably being, yeah, you know what, I'm not gonna say. What I'm saying is my point is that let's not give in to our worst instincts, our biases. Let's just enjoy these movies for what they are. Appreciate them, all of them, and let's have a healthy, fun debate as a debate about them as a fandom discussion. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, these are the movies that I've seen so far on this slate. More to come soon. More in this format. So look forward to that. And yeah, I mean, if you're still with me, thank you for listening, and look forward to more. Bye.